choosing these plays? Godot was first in London about 4 years ago, and then deciding to do No Man's Land here with it. What sort of informed that? Not informed. Why did you want to do these characters and these plays and with each other?
We'd had a wonderful experience doing Godot in England. It had been eye-opening. I had not long before that read Peter Bull's autobiography. Peter Bull was the original Pozzo in the original London production. And he described how when they came back after the interval, they would find the theatre half empty or more, because people would have just gone, left, walked out. And we toured Britain for 8 weeks. And then we had a long run in London, and there was never a seat to be had for any performance. And so many of those audiences were very, very young. And I think I recall one banging seat in the whole 22 weeks that we were doing that. And it's been a wonderful experience to see how what was considered an impossibly difficult and challenging play has now become so accessible to audiences. But I had said I had always wanted to do No Man's Land. Sharing a dressing room with Ian, watching him work, I knew he was Spooner. I thought, well, I'll settle for Hurst, which is the other wonderful role. And I kind of wore him down about it. He resisted, and for the reasons that you've heard about Sir John and so forth. But then Sean got us, and I said to Sean, I want you to direct it. He had directed Godot. He got us in a dressing room of a theatre in Milton Keynes where Ian was on tour in a production directed by Sean, another production. And we did a reading of the play. And it was...
We laughed.
Yeah, we laughed all the way through.
Helpless.
Yes. And I could see that it was that. I mean, I could see
laughter.
Ian being won over, that it was so, his role was so funny, and the play itself was so brilliantly funny. And then at that point, Sean, I think, said, well, look, there's something we could do here. We'd always wanted to bring Godot to New York. And then there was another production that came
just
up,
a few years ago.
Our plans, well, really, they were abandoned until it seemed possible that enough time had gone by, we might have a shot at doing it here and doing both plays, alternating them for each week and 2 days in the week when you can see both plays if you want to, and I do think it will be a fascinating experience. And we are also the producers in terms of we have organized the production with Stewart Thompson, who is an authentic producer. And we have also ourselves invested in it. I think it's fairly unique what we're doing.
It is, and you've got a great producer with Stewart, but you've also made the great decision to keep a lot of ticket prices low, which is rare for Broadway these days.
$30 front row.
Yes.
$30.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
And you know, the light from the stage, as it does here, just spills over onto the front row. And half in, half out of character, I think, well, you only paid $30, you lucky buggers. And there is a sort of glow on their faces as they realise they really do have a bargain. That's very important, isn't it? They're doing the same with the Globe Theatre Shakespeare productions at very low prices. Of course you've got to have low prices. And those of us who can go to the theatre and can afford to pay the big prices and get the prime seats, well then, yeah, we should pay for those because we're hoping to subsidise the people who can't afford. But it's a, you know, if you don't have theatre subsidised by a local authority or a government authority, as we do for many theatres in the UK, then you have to find ways around it. But the commercial theatre, it may be, but the point of theatre is not that it is commercial.
Right.
That's the last consideration. But, of course, if people don't come and see your show, you'll be discouraged from ever doing a show again.
London doesn't turn people into stars quite the same way that Hollywood in America does, and sometimes fetishizes them even. When you were becoming big here, how excited or how nerve-wracking was that for either of you? Or did you sort of block that out, sort of the celebrity part of America? Patrick, what about for you?
Star Trek, we were a syndicated television series. We were the first run syndicated series ever. And although we had a huge audience and great numbers, we always had a feeling, so far as Hollywood is concerned, that because, you know, there is a hierarchy in Hollywood. I'd always imagined there wouldn't be. That, you know, this is the great democracy and that everybody would be equal. Well, it ain't true. And I found that being in a syndicated science fiction television series put us quite low on that ladder of prestige in Hollywood. And, you know, we, in all the 7 years that we're doing the series, we got one creative nomination, which was from the first year, the Screen Actors Guild nomination. Our technical side that was continually nominated for Emmys and Golden Globes, but never for the creative side. And we often felt that it was because that we were actually not really taken seriously. I've forgotten your question.
It was about the way that Hollywood makes people into stars, and whether that was something.
Oh yes. Well, then I came here to Brooklyn to Broadway. I'm sorry, I live in Brooklyn.
Right.
Came here to Broadway with my one-man show of Christmas Carol, and I'd been hauling it around colleges and campuses in Southern California for a couple of years. And each year doing something different with it. The first time I had papers in my hand and I was reading them and throwing them aside like this, and then finally I learned it. Wonderful man, Tim and Terry Childs, who had never produced on Broadway before and wanted to. They took a gamble on bringing me to Broadway. One man in a suit and 4 old pieces of furniture, and then nothing else at all, and a marvelous lighting plot. And that first performance at the Eugene O'Neill Theatre, I was darn sure what was the first thing that was going to happen to me on a Broadway stage. I was going to throw up. I was so frightened. Wow. And all of Star Trek and the films and things meant nothing because I was so terrified of not giving of my best here in New York. Because Broadway, for English actors, Broadway does have a special excitement to it. There is a community here on the Broadway stage, which there is not in the same way in London. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
These are a couple personal fanboy questions. Patrick, do you ever miss playing Jean-Luc Picard?
No, I don't. I don't miss playing him. I loved that character. I admired him. That was one of the nice things about being him. But you know, we were supposed to be a failure. As you know, Ian said, why? You know, I had 7 years. I was told by everybody I knew in Hollywood, without exception, don't worry about signing a 6-year contract. You'll be lucky to make it through the first season. You cannot revive an iconic series. Everybody said that.
Right.
And so towards the end, I wanted to be branching out and doing things that were, you know, more diverse.
Yeah.
But the films were great fun.
Yeah. When the last movie, it struggled a bit at the box office, and then it was sort of, did it feel, for the fans, it suddenly felt over, that a part of the next generation you'd lived with for 15 years.
That was strange, because it didn't actually lose money.
No, it just...
It just didn't make as much as the others had made. And Paramount, I can't remember who it was at Paramount who said this, but they said, the fact is, your show is suffering from franchise fatigue.
Right.
And it was a pity because John Logan, terrific screenwriter,
Right.
great screenwriter, and wonderful playwright
Right.
too. His play Red was extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
And he had written that final script.
Yeah.
And he had an idea for another movie, which would have, he and Brent Spiner between them, would bring together all of the living figures from the Star Trek
Wow.
history in one. But it's
Yeah.
it's moldering somewhere in a back room at
Right.
Paramount.
Right. I have Logan's cell phone number, so I'm going to call him. Ian, how much of Gandalf is you? How much of him is Peter Jackson? How much of him is Tolkien? Can you somehow get your arms around that kind of question, or is it impossible?
When I was at Cambridge, I used to go to C.S. Lewis's lectures, the man who wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and all that. Tolkien, of course, was at Oxford, so I never had the good fortune to meet him, but I recognized the type. And pipe-smoking, tweedy Englishman with a huge brain and an interest in the world, and particularly language and expression. So, of course, Tolkien's in all his characters, but he's particularly inside Gandalf.
Okay.
Was that the question? I don't know, but it's.
Well, I guess, yeah.
He's. I'm very fond of Gandhi. And,
So is the world.
oh.